um, AAII income and cash flow SIG group that we run out of the Portland, Oregon PDX chapter. And this is Todd Blickenstaff. And I'm here with our webmaster, John Wong, and also Gilbert Ho, who will be our featured speaker today on speaking about just first of all, Gilbert's featured speaker for us pretty much every meeting because he's talking about the economic and market overview that he does in his analysis for us every month. And Gilbert is also the featured speaker on our topic of interest today, which is annuity basics. And that's basically the focus of that is learning the key characteristics of annuities. When investing in annuities makes sense in a higher for longer interest rate market environment. And this is part 2 of the forums that we have done on annuities. They're complex animals, and we want to make sure that we're explaining them in detail. And obviously, because it's an income-oriented investment, although there is appreciation potential there, it's in our wheelhouse. And so we want to make sure we're giving exposure to that. And that's an area of the market, by the way, where because interest rates have risen so significantly since 2022, returns on annuities are now competitive versus where they're much less so several years ago. But anyway, we're going to get going here. And just want to mention a couple of things about our meeting here. Again, this is Todd Blickenstaff, co-chair of the Income and Cash Flow SIG National Meeting. And that our next meeting after this one is going to be Thursday, February 20th. And we're planning to do a fixed income / bond market overview since we're at the start of a new year here and had some pretty significant changes, including recently rise in interest rates. So it should be a topic of interest that we that should be timely, and we hope we encourage you all to attend that meeting too, and that you'll get updates on that meeting within the next coming weeks. But I just wanted you to hopefully circle that date on your calendar and plan to attend because it should be a very informative meeting for an overview of the markets, fixed income markets. And so at this, I wanted to also mention that because our area of specialization in the income and cash flow SIG is exactly as that describes, for more of the returns from investments that come from income and cash flow as opposed to just pure appreciation. And so anytime we have a topic of interest that's being offered by ourselves, obviously, but also other chapters and special interest groups, SIG groups throughout the AAII national territory. We strive to make you aware of those too, because of topics of interest. And what we do is we'll enter those in discussion in our discussion section that this meeting is coming up. We've done that with several upcoming meetings that aren't being coordinated through our chapter, but coordinated through other chapters and SIG groups throughout the country. And we want to make you aware of those too. So I'm encouraging you to check the income and cash flow SIG group website frequently and as well as be registered there because we'll send out those discussion items. And you also receive emails announcing that when we put those into the discussion section. So look for those as well. In addition to our monthly meetings that we do on the third Thursday of each month. So for the meeting today, we're encouraging everyone to enter their questions in the Q&A section, not the chat section, but the Q&A section. So if you can do that, and then what we'll do is we'll be reviewing those questions as we go and find out when it's an opportune time for Gilbert to take questions on those topics today. So, but anytime you've got a thought or question, please enter it in the Q&A because that way you won't forget about it and we won't forget about it. And we'll strive to answer any questions that you have during any at some point in the presentation. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Gilbert Ho. First of all, to talk about the economic and market overview. Gilbert is, by the way, a little bit about his bio and background. Gilbert is a lifetime member of AAII and co-host of the AAI Silicon Valley Computerized Investing SIG as well. And he is a retired software engineer with development and management experience at various startups and large companies. And he happens to be passionate in learning about macroeconomics and investing strategies. And he's furthered that. Gilbert, by the way, has a master's degree in computer science and a bachelor's degree in electronic engineering. And he's a great researcher too, as you'll find out as he presents on both the economy and markets and annuities. So at this point, Gilbert, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and thank you in advance for your presentations today.
Thanks, Todd. Let me just share my screen. Now, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Do you see the slide?
I do.
Okay.
Economy
Perfect.
review.
Got it. So let me make the full screen now. So
that's larger. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Todd, you guys, I have a tendency to speak very fast. So if anything that I just went by too fast, do stop me and ask questions.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So the disclaimer. I am not a professional economist, so everything I say here is for entertainment purpose, maybe a little bit educational, and none of us are taking responsibility for the contents.
Yeah. And that goes for all of the information that we present
Right.
at our income and cash flow SIG too, including Gilbert happens to be presenting both, but that applies generally to us. We can't be, we don't want to be perceived as giving investment advice. This is for information purposes. So, and you as investors should make your own decisions or consult an investment professional before doing so. Thanks, Gilbert. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to add that economics and markets are not governed by physical laws. So there's no, if this happened, that must happen kind of thing. The other one is, a lot of people look at pattern in the data and say, okay, this indicator worked every time, last 7 times, but it may or may not work this time. So just be aware of that. The most important thing is at this point on the market is any economy is the interest rate. And the FOMC meeting happened middle of last December. And the next one is going to be end of this month. So in 2 weeks, I think, about that, we're going to have another meeting. So this is kind of old news. So I will quickly go over. Basically, this summary of economic projections they publish every time after their meeting. Well, I'm sorry, take it back. Every quarter, every 3 months, they publish one of these after their meeting. And that is a survey of all the FOMC meeting participants in survey. So it's not, well, of course, their opinion comes from their staff. So this is basically a Federal Reserve Board staff opinion. And so you can see that this is what they do. And the interesting thing is Chairman Powell gave a conference, press conference, and he sort of hinted of a higher for longer kind of thing. And so the market has been going down since mid of September. And I think mid of December, I think we are all painfully aware of that. Just showing that at the time of their meeting and end of the year, what the numbers look like. Okay, so the important thing here is the interest rate, the 10-year minus the 3 months. Now this chart is showing the so-called yield curve diversion, or whatever you call that. That's long. Usually the long-term rate should be higher than the short-term rate. And in the past to a year and a half because of the monetary policy. That didn't happen. In the past, this usually tell you there's a recession because Fed is tightening the money. But
Yeah,
of
yield curve
course,
inversion, right? Yeah.
right. But of course, that didn't happen. Now people are saying, if you look at the past, usually it doesn't happen when it's inverted. Usually it happens when it's inverted, then disinverted. So we are in that second phase now. And so you will still hear a faint call for recession. The next one is 2-year Treasury versus the effective federal fund rate. Um, there is a saying that the 2-year Treasury is what the market is telling Fed where the Fed fund rate should be. And in the past, in part of 2023 and the whole of 2024, the market is telling Fed to lower rate. And now we are at par. So Fed has basically Fed probably will slow their rate reduction if reduction still happens. That's why the stock, the market is sort of I would say basing, going up and down, but going nowhere.
Hmm.
Now the yield curve, the x-axis, you can see that is the maturity from 1 month to 30 year, and the y-axis is the rate. So there are 3 lines here. You look at the bottom, that's the normal curve, and that's what we have at the end of 2021. At that time it's easy money. So short-term rate is very low, and long-term rate is, so short-term rate reflect the monetary policy. So at 2021, we were low short-term rate, and the long end is inflation expectation. So we didn't have much of inflation expectation at the end of 2021. Middle line, the blue line is the beginning, the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. At that time, the Fed has raised the short-term rate a lot, and the long-term rate also went up because of inflation. So the red line says now. Now we are a little bit of normal. The short-term rate is less than the long-term rate. And there is a hope that short-term will continue to go down. Of course, nobody wants a long-term rate to keep on going up. So we shall see.
Hmm.
Now, the last one is looking at the quantitative tightening. People say Fed pumped too much money, so that caused inflation. Another saying is the Fed pumped too much money and the government had too much deficit. So add together, that's a perfect storm for an inflation surge. So Fed has been tightening. They've been reducing their balance sheet. So far, they have took off $2 trillion. I think they pump in 4, or at the height, they were 9 trillion.
Yeah, it was a huge number. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they pumped in 5 trillion. So now they take out 2.
Mhm.
There are still 3 to be taken out. Usually this is a headwind for the market, but that didn't seem to matter this time. Also, another line here is the M2 money supply, and there's a saying that inflation is a monetary matter, which means if you have a higher M2, you will have higher inflation. And you can see that we have a quantum jump, a step function from before 2020 and after 2020. We are back to the trend line, but at a higher level. So that's where we are with M2 supply. Now, I think this week, the 7th, last week, we have job opening report. And the important thing here is if you look at the insert the small diagram in the middle of the jokes, that shows that number of unemployed person per job opening. And so for every job opening, we have less than 1 person applying. That means there are more jobs around. You can interpret that way. Now, if you look at the purple line, the number of openings, the percent, the rate, it's sloping down. Of course, the latest report showed a little tick up, and we will see what that is it become a new trend or is just a anti-trend. Now, the bottom gold line or yellow line, that shows the quids. And if you look at the quids, it's back to a level that's in the mid of 2015 or 2004, the mid-cycle number. That is good. So basically, the job market isn't overheating and isn't terribly weak. And so that's probably what they said called Goldilocks.
Yeah,
Now,
Gilbert,
yeah,
one of the things that I had read from a couple different sources recently was that um, graduating college students are having a tougher time in the job market, and that includes there was an article in the Journal this last couple of days about Harvard MBAs, considered such a prestige school and prestige degree. Those students are even having trouble finding positions, and that employers are looking askance too at some of the college grads, quite frankly. I think it's been complicated the last couple of years. And so it does seem to be a cooling job market um, generally from those indications anyway.
right. And so the next slide here is the employment and wage growth. Um, Now, this is the initial claim, and we can see that um, this is just drifting. This is 1 year number, and since January 2024, and we are basically drifting on this level that is historically very, very low. I think before 2020, the people say you don't have to worry about it until it gets to 350 or above. Right now, we're at 210, 220. So we are very low at this on this initial claim. Now, the all employee or total non-farm employee numbers, we had a hiccup in, I want to say November or October, and then we're recovering. So if you look at the December number, that looks normal. Looking at unemployment rate, we are back to 4.1, and looking at the labor force participation rate, we are recovering from the pandemic, but we're we're not going back to where we used to be. So that's stable. And we look at the I take the average hourly earning times the average weekly hours they worked, and and take a annual rate of change on that. That's the purple line. Looks like we are flattened out, but we're at the level still a little bit high, I think, but we shall see. The background, the red line is actually the CPI headline. So income increase is normalizing. We're coming down from the 2020 and 2021 level. Finally, this is a Silicon Valley employment rate. The three areas that's the core of the high tech, and you can see that the unemployment rate is actually 4.0, around about the same as the national. Now, U.S. dollar, there's a lot of talk about this and tariff and all that, or American exceptionalism. That's why our money should worth more. In any case, a strong dollar does help fighting inflation because we can import a lot of stuff cheaply. Also, looking at the commodity futures, this is annual number, so it's really the whole year of 2024, and we can see the gasoline was stable. Natural gas, because of the cold weather, it's actually trending up. Copper, I would call it going nowhere. And corn is trending up. Beef is trending up. And so hamburgers are getting more expensive. And lumber seems to be going nowhere. So that's what the commodity future is telling us. Now, the actual inflation numbers, the PPI, that is the purple line with the background of the import and export, and the PPI is normalizing, although you can say it's trending up a little bit. And the two key inflation numbers, the CPI, the headline CPI, and core PCE, the Fed is looking at the core PCE. That's why it's a red line. And if you look at the red line, that's very obvious. It's been trending up since June. And that's why when Chairman Powell said, there's the uptrend, nobody should be surprised. And if you look at the purple line, which is the headline CPI, you can see that the last 4 months, we've been just on a straight up line. So compared to a year ago or to whatever, it's still much lower. But if this trend keeps on going up, we can kiss the rate cut goodbye. Now, I have some background number here, like China's CPI, they're stable. And this is a index that supply chain price pressure index. The Y scale is actually standard deviation from average. So you can see that during 2020, end of 21 and beginning of 22, when the inflation was very hot, we have a very high pressure on the supply chain side. That's why Chairman Powell said the inflation was caused by supply chain. And now we're back to normal. Actually, we're on the negative side. Now, ISM manufacturing PMI has been below 50, which means contraction for a long time. I think more than 2 years now. But then manufacturing is not as high percentage of GDP as it used to be. If we look at the servers PMI, this is, economists say we are a service economy. So the service PMI showing we're still expanding. This is a number that, again, Chairman Powell mentioned, and it looks normal, so there's no alarm here. Finally, the Atlantic Fed's GDP forecast is saying 2.7%. This is January 7, and I look at yesterday, it's still around 2.7. So growth, somebody equate GDP with growth, so we're a little bit on the growth side. This leading economic indicator from Conference Board worked every time before 2020. So even for the 2020 pandemic, it is correct. When it dips below the line, it tells you, the red part of the horizontal line tells you we're in a recession. However, if you look at that in 2023, we're supposed to be in recession, but there's no recession. So this is just one of the traditional indicators that doesn't seem to work this time. And it's back to positive. So we shall see. The next release will be a week from now. So next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's all I have on economic side.
Okay. We haven't actually had any questions posted in the Q&A, but if anyone does have any questions they'd like to ask Gilbert about this portion of the presentation, please take yourself off mute and fire away. And we're happy to, Gilbert, be happy to answer any questions that you have. If it may have been that you covered the waterfront so well, Gilbert, that everybody's perfectly clairvoyant now. And
yeah, economy is macro is slow moving, right? So it will take a while to have a trend and have something.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, it just seems like, last fall, 3 or 4 months ago, people were saying, well, what kind of landing are we going to have? Are we going to have a soft landing? Are we going to have a hard landing? Are we going to have a full recession? Now it's like, well, there's not really a lot of sign of any kind of landing, and so it may be no landing at all. And so I guess stay in your sheets, and we seem to be, and this, it just seems like the economy and the job market continue to surprise on the upside, and that the U.S. is leading versus most other markets around the world. Certainly Europe has slowed. China is struggling in terms of job growth there. I know they're pulling out more stops to try to get the economy going. India, I think, is relatively strong, but have has slowed versus where they were. And other parts of Asia, I think, are a mixed bag. So again, the U.S. is showing what perhaps one of the best examples in the world of a purely capitalistic economy, although we're certainly not that by any means, but we're more purely capitalistic than most other countries in the world, and so that I think is uh, playing us in our favor in terms of how well we're holding up worldwide. I think technology certainly has something to do with that too. There's obviously, we're in a presidential transition here, so we did get a market rally after it was announced that Trump had won the presidential election in the fall, but most of that has been given up. And it has been choppy, as Gilbert pointed out, and because interest rates have been rising here, the economic environment is changing. So, I think the markets are coming around to the realization, well, maybe we're not going to get any rate decreases. And I think the bond vigilantes, we used to call them in the business, were nervous about, and inflation, we're not really going to hit 2%. We're probably not going to get down that low. Quite frankly, I think the long-term average the last 30 years has been closer to 3 anyway, but everybody keeps talking about the 2% target that the Fed is looking for. And but so it seems to me that, and I think you can tell me if you concur, Gilbert, but based on your data, it just doesn't look like any recession in the cards in the near future.
Right. But then we never know.
Well, we don't. Things can change quickly, and
Right.
things are volatile, particularly on the on the foreign policy world. So, but thank you very much for your usual excellent presentation, Gilbert, on the economy and the markets. And now we're going to transition, excuse me, to part two of Gilbert's presentation on annuity basics. And which I kind of gave a brief intro before, so I won't repeat that. And I know there's a lot of in-depth topics here for these complex animals. So we want to take advantage of the additional time we have left in the meeting for Gilbert to present on annuity basics. So take it away again, Gilbert.
Okay. So again, disclaimer. Um, this stuff here is for educational and entertainment purpose only. Um, we we are not claim the information is accurate at all, and we're not assume any responsibilities. And you really should talk to your advisors. In addition to that, there's my disclosure, which is the author, which is me, is not a licensed insurance professional. So I'm not selling you anything, and whatever I say, I'm not, I'm not licensed to sell anything. So this is purely my personal opinion to share as entertainment and education. Now, I do own annuities from Fidelity and New York Life. So, but I got sucked in a long time ago. So talking about annuities. So here is the Social Security actuarial life table. Now, life insurance, you buy annuity from a life insurance company, most likely. And life insurance is to hedge the risk of dying young. However, an annuity is to hedge the risk of living very long. So the salesperson will tell you need both to cover both ends. So we look at the life expectancy. Of course, male die earlier than female. And if you look at this, this is kind of funny. Social Security says the sample is 100,000 people, and for the first 50,000 to die, for men, that's about 78, and for women, that's about 83. So that's a good reference point. So what is an annuity? Primarily, the annuity is a contract with an insurance company that the insurance company promised to pay you income, which is called payout, on a regular basis for a period of that you choose. It can be short, it can be long, it can be even the rest of your life. So based on when the payout starts, an annuity is either an immediate or deferred. So you heard about immediate annuity and deferred. That just means when do you take the money? And on the deferred annuity, which means you gave the insurance company money first, and then that money rolls, and then you take payout. That has a so-called accumulation period. So those are the basic terms. Now, interestingly, annuity can be purchased as qualified or non-qualified. So qualified just means you buy using pre-tax money. In other words, whatever you got, you haven't paid tax yet. I think like you can put it in your IRA account, you can use 401k if it's supported, or you can do the SEP, which is the simplified employee pension for the self-employed. And there are limits for each of these situations. All the distributions, which is the payout or the money you're taking out from the annuity, will be taxed as ordinary income in this case because you never paid tax anyway. There's no R&D in this case. I'm sorry, there is R&D in this case because you haven't paid tax, just like your IRA. An unqualified annuities is just bought with after-tax money. So your principal.
I just stop you there.
Yeah.
Gilbert, I think most people know it, but just RMD that acronym means required minimum distribution.
Right.
Right.
And
right.
So if you bought an annuity with the after-tax money, which is non-qualified, then only your interest or the gain of the distribution will be taxed, and your principal part will not be not. And so in here, RMD rules don't apply either, right? So you can go live until 90s and you don't worry about RMD with your annuity. Now, the nice thing about annuity, a deferred annuity, is the interest and investment gains are tax deferred. However, anytime you take money out of it, it's treated as ordinary income. There's no long-term capital gain favorable treatment. Also, if you take the money out of an annuity before age 59 and a half, you might have a 10% penalty like you did with IRA. If you inherit an annuity based on the type of annuity, so if you inherit a qualified annuity, which means it's bought with pre-tax money, then you can roll that annuity into an inherited IRA. But if you inherited a non-qualified annuity, which means the annuity was bought with after-tax money, then you can exchange that annuity into a new annuity of your own name. Now, exchange one annuity to another, like kind, can be done tax-free. So that's called 1035 exchange. Now, the bullet here says beware of surrender charges with either contract, because with annuity, we will talk about next slide, I believe, and there are penalties that if you take the money out early. So if you are exchanged and the from and to, you got to worry about how long those contracts are there and how soon you want to take the money out, because otherwise you get penalized, and the penalty is not small potato either. So another thing is practical is you do not want to surrender, which means and terminate the old policy and ask them to send you a check or wire money into your account, and then you use that money to buy a new one. It's best to ask the two insurance companies to work together to try to do the exchange. because I read somewhere that if you don't do it, then IRS may think that you're taking money out and ask you and will tax you.
So it's a lot like an IRA rollover. I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
yeah, you
Do
go
yeah,
institution to institution. That way there can never be any question that it might be a taxable event
yeah,
on your part,
yeah,
subject to other
exactly.
rules here
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Now the best thing about this is you can have a remorse. So after you signing the contract, you have a thing called free look period, which is 10 days or more. Each state is different. You can cancel without any charges. And I did this once to a poor lady. So um, uh, this is like, and the most important thing is you don't really know what the annuity is until you signed it, bought it, and look at the contract. They give you the contract. And now, then when you get the contract, you have 10 days to look through because there might be fine print in there that you don't like. So within that free look period, you can just cancel without any charge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so types of annuities. Generally, you have three kinds, but then we'll see other things. There's fixed, indexed, and variable. Fixed is very simple. You are paid with a fixed rate. And there are two common types. One is called SPIA, the other one is called MIGA. SPIA is single payment immediate annuity. And the other one, MIGA, is multi-year guaranteed annuity. When it's multi-year, I think that means you put money in. It's sort of a deferred, and the SPIA is the immediate. The index one is generally a deferred because it pays you interest based on an external index, and we'll talk about this later. And in that, there is a thing called RILA, RILA. So MIGA is multi-year guaranteed annuity. RILA is registered index-linked annuity. That doesn't tell you anything, so we'll talk about it. Variable is you own investments inside the contract, the account, and is sort of you manage your investment there, and at the end of the end of the accumulation phase, which when you annuitize means you said I want to take money now. They will decide how much you get based on your portfolio value. That's how it usually works. You heard about a term called rider. That basically is like an add-on to your annuity contract. And I look at it like when you buy a car, you get these options. And rider is the equivalent option, car options on an annuity contract. So we will talk about some of them. So I alluded to deferred annuity has two phases. And basically, you have this accumulation phase. And during the accumulation phase, there is no payout. Your contract value change based on the type of the annuity. So let me just say that the complexity of annuity comes from the deferral. If you just get the simple SPIA, a simple single payment immediate annuity, you give them the money, they start giving you the money, they start to give you monthly income. That is very straightforward. And once you get out of that and go into referral and then deferral and these other things get complicated. So the payout phase is the immediate annuity kind of thing, is like, or any annuity when you start taking money, monthly fixed money from the insurance company. The payout phase, in other words, it's called annuitize. When you get regular payment. Some of the payment options are you can get the lump sum. You can get partial payment of contract value, basically a fixed amount every month. If you bought an income rider, which we'll talk about later, then it introduced a different set of rules. to S4, how much money you can get. And my impression with the annuity is basically every insurance company has called the same thing differently. And every insurance company has something nobody else has. So it's very, very hard to grasp the essence of an annuity contract. So there's the three things we talk about here is surrender charge, free withdrawal, and death penalty. What is the surrender charge? So basically, you heard about insurance sales. Annuity sales is the most profitable insurance that salesperson can do. That's because the commission is pretty high. And apparently, the insurance company paid the salesperson commission right after you sign the contract and pass the free look period. So if you're going to take money out or you're going to cancel it, or not taking money out, if you want to cancel the contract, they'll start charge you. It's like a restocking fee. So this is an example where for the first year, if you say, I changed my mind, I'm not going to do this annuity, they'll give you 93% of your money back. They're going to keep 7%. And this percentage goes down every year. So watch out for this. This is like, once you pass that free look period, you're hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this thing called free withdrawal. That's the percent of contract value that you can withdraw each year without suffering any penalty. And it's usually 10% of the contract value.
Does this apply for any type of annuity?
Generally. But then again, like I said, every annuity have their own fine print. That's you have to look at the contract to say this apply or does not apply. There is no guarantee of this term, meaning exactly the same from one company to the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So basic death benefit. If you die during the accumulation phase, that's the deferral, right? So the death benefit is usually the greater of either the contract value, which is your investment, or a minimum guarantee surrender value that's in your contract. And if you die during the payout period, which is the second phase, after you annuitize and you're getting monthly income, your beneficiary may get nothing or may get a lump sum defined in the contract, or getting paid continuously if you choose such an option and if the option is available. Now, again, I'm just trying to say that there are a lot of riders you can buy to enhance the death benefit. But then again, every rider you buy, you pay some fees. Nothing's free. There's other common fees and charges that I list here. I think the most common one are the second one, which is the M&E, mortality and expense fees. And so some of the fees that get charged, some based on state. So read your contract carefully. And this is not a complete list. So annuitization, meaning getting paid. Annuitization starts the payout phase. It is the process converting an annuity investment into a series of periodic payments. Typically, this is irreversible. I say typically because there are policy that is reversible. Read your fine print. You usually no longer have control or access of your money. You just get check from insurance company every month. Again, usually. Now, once an annuity enters the payout phase, the cash value of the annuity generally no longer increase. So basically, I would just look at it like when you annuitize, it's like you bought a SPIA, a single payment immediate annuity. It's done, right? Some of the payout options, and you can take it for life. There's a joint life, so you can take for life, and your spouse can. And if the man die early, then the spouse can take it, the rest of it until she dies. There's a thing called life with cash refund. So your beneficiary receive a lump sum, a premium, the premium you pay minus all the payout you received. And so if you, and this option, if you took it for a long time and you die, there may not be any money for your beneficiaries. There's a thing called period certain. So what that period certain means that the payout will last for a fixed period, usually 10, 20 years. And if you die before the period ends, the payment continues for the rest of the period to beneficiaries. So let's say it's a 10-year period certain, and you die 5 years, then your beneficiary will, for the next 5 years, will get a payment. But since you died after that 5 years, there's nothing. Life with period certain. So this payout will last for a lifetime. Again, if you die before the period, it's the same thing. But if you die after the period, no, the payout will last for a lifetime. So you know, and I will give you an example, and you can see what the amount of the money you get every month is different based on what you choose. Here's an example. I just want to say that I don't remember, and I don't know these number, which is at when they gave this example. I took it out from the some of the internet stuff I found. So you can see that there's life. In this example is a female, and based on her age, every month the different amount of monthly income. And there's a joint life. Here they assume the spouse is 3 years older, and you know, because there are 2 people involved here, then the monthly income is much lower. And the life with cash refund, I think from here on, they assume the 2 people. They assume joint. So, and then there's period certain of 20 years and life with period certain of 20 years. Of course, if you anything that's life, you get less because they guarantee much longer period. Again, you know, here are some other factors impacting the payout. And, you know, your age and your gender, your contract value, which how much your contract's worth. There is a thing called distribution rate that's in your contract, which means out of your contract value, say 100K, what is the percentage that they will pay you? And that's how you get these numbers. And then if you bought an income rider, which is probably next slide, then there is a thing called guaranteed base and withdrawal rate that you can get. If you ever find a COLA rider, COLA is cost of living adjustment. If you can ever find one, then your monthly your repayment will also be impacted by that, because then you're going to adjust your payment based on the cost of living, which is inflation. So income rider for indexed or variable annuity. Why is only for index and variable? Because variable and indexed annuities own or linked to underlying investment, which the value goes up and down, that is the risk. So the income rider sets a guaranteed minimum payout, even if your investment goes to 0. So this is like insurance on top of insurance. Yeah, that's basically, it's an insurance against a prolonged bear market, which means your investment keeps on going down, and or a sequence of return risk, which means you suffer a big loss at the beginning and then small wins later. So in either case, at the end, your contract value is smaller than what you put in. And there are many variants of income riders. Some of the, I give two acronym here, but we will only cover the GLWB, which is guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. And it works by tracking 2 separate numbers. The first number is your contract value, right? That's the value of your underlying investment portfolio. You have full control. You control the investment. And then there is a thing called benefit base. It takes your contract premium and raise it by a compound roll-up rate for a fixed period. So some time ago, I heard a colleague might bought a variable annuity with this GOWB, and she's saying, well, I put in 100K and they're guaranteed 7% growth for 10 years. And that's what this is. You put 100K, which is your premium, and the compound roll-up rate is 7% and for 10 years. And I'm saying like, wow, at the time it was, the interest rate was like 1% and 2%. How do you get 7% per year? And we shall see how that works, because the insurance company is not charity. When annuitized, payout is determined by applying the guaranteed payout rate or the distribution rate to the larger of the following two numbers. The larger of the two numbers above, the contract value or the benefit base. This rider may also allow you to make additional withdrawal from your cash value, even after annuitization. So this is, like I said, like usually once you annuitize, you can take money out, but this one lets you do. But doing so, of course, reduce your benefit base and your monthly payout. So here's my observations. And if you ever bought this insurance, this income rider, which is insurance, then it encourages you to take more risk and invest aggressively, because if you lose, you have a safety net. But on the other flip side is insurance company must charge enough to hedge against bad market and no bad investors. So you gotta pay for it. A second observation is generally, the longer you're living your investing horizon, the less useful this thing is, because if your time horizon is long, your risk tolerance is higher, and if you have a short accumulation period, in other words, you want to annuitize very very soon, then the rider may not be a good way. This rider could be a good way to optimize your risk-adjusted returns, because if you're unlucky running into a bear market, this one will save you if you have a short time horizon. So after all this, why do we want to purchase an annuity? Some of the reasons I can think of is, you don't want a pension like lifetime guarantee income, or you like the tax deferred saving. Now, but this one doesn't give you the long-term capital gain, or even better, the setup cost basis if you have a long-term holding of an asset, right? So somebody who bought Microsoft stock in 1990 is going to sit on it forever and use it as a legacy to pass on to the beneficiaries, because when the beneficiary get it, the cost base is just step up. So all that tax is skipped. Now, another reason is principal protection, because of a fixed income annuity or guarantee minimum payout, the right income rider, you have some guarantee. And they also sell long-term care riders with annuity. So maybe that's another reason to buy it. This sort of warning here, you got to do some due diligence. Actually, you got to do thorough due diligence. You got to watch for the insurance company rating. Here, I would suggest you go with too big to fail. So in 2008, AIG, that's a good example. The government going to save you. Hopefully, not guaranteed. You want to watch for the surrender charge, or that's translated into commissions, because just in case you change your mind a few years, or your situation changes a few years down the road. And then you gotta watch for the annual charges and the limit on free withdrawal. Also, if you have a variable annuity, you want to check out the investment options. I have seen variable annuities with 2 options or 3 options that you can invest, and that's basically very limited. And then, in terms of legacy, maybe you want to make sure there's some money left to your beneficiaries, so you want to, check out the death benefit. This stretch provision is a specific term for the fidelity ones. We'll talk about it later. And beware of the fraud and scams. You're talking about a lot of money, and not just attract bad people. So go
Gilbert,
ahead.
is there any law or protection in the laws where the annuity contracts stay in force, even if the insurance company is no longer in business or they're absorbed or merged into another? If they
Good
merge,
question.
I think they should be protected. But
Good
yeah.
question. I think every state has a fund. So you got to check your state. And then again, it's just like this California fire insurance fund, right? FAIR. With the LA fire, there's like how many the state fund usually cannot guarantee everybody. If you got a massive like 1929 kind of a problem, the state fund and all the insurance goes down, the state fund is probably not going to be able to cover that. But other than that, there are already examples where small small insurance company went down and they got absorbed, and the state fund chips in. So the second line of defense is your state insurance fund. Also,
There's
sort
no
of encourage no federal. There's no FDIC,
no
no
federal
federal.
protection. Okay.
Right, no federal protection. Well, other than in 2008, AIG was bailed out, right? So too big to fail, somebody's going to bail you out. A good news I read somewhere is in 1929 depression, there was no insurance company out going didn't pay you. So that's what their proud record. So anyway, so that's all I know. In terms of the bottom line here is annuities are long-term product. Do not use it for short-term because there's all kind of money charges that you're going to suffer. Now, so here we're going to talk about different kind of annuities. So before that was the overall introduction to annuities. Okay. What is a fixed annuity? That's the first of the 3 kind. I also want to mention to everybody that I put links below the title. So hopefully, if you get access to the PDF we will upload, you can go check them out. Okay, so a fixed annuity can be immediate, which starts to pay out immediately. So you give them, that's the traditional definition of annuity. You give the insurance company money, they start pay you every month. There's deferred. Even on fixed annuity, you can defer. And so you basically have this accumulation phase where they give you a rate, and it's almost like a CD. And then until when you say, okay, I want to annuitize, I want to get a payout, then they say, okay, how much is your contract value at the time? And distribution rate determines your monthly income. So during the accumulation phase, fixed annuity pay a guaranteed rate of interest, and that's what I said. And so a lot of times, if you defer for a long time, they do this fixed rate for periods, like CD, right? Nobody can guarantee a fixed rate for very, very long without a higher rate, well, a lower rate. There's a guarantee minimum rate for the life of the policy, and that's in your contract. Generally, that's much lower than the current rate. Payout amount is usually driven by the amount of total premiums that you pay. I think we talked about this, age and gender and other stuff. Example of fixed annuities. So two types. There's a single payment immediate SPIA. So you give the company a pile of money and they start paying you fixed amount every month or in a few months. It's a multi-year guaranteed annuity, which is deferred. So CD-like investment during the accumulation phase. Okay,
Gilbert, we got a question
sure.
in the Q&A section, and basically I'll just read the question. For fixed annuity, is there a way to figure out the underlying interest rate from the payout rate? Do they actually quote you an APR, annual percentage rate, or is it a dollar? Is it just listed in dollar figure?
Wait. So if you're gonna talk about rate, that's the MIGA, multi-year guaranteed annuity, right? I think I don't I'm not quite sure I
Well, on a
understand the
fixed
question.
annuity, you're promised a specific payout, and
Can I,
is
can I
that?
answer that question?
Yeah,
Is
go
that,
ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you.
yeah, what it's called is, and you mentioned it earlier, is the distribution rate. And every
Okay.
annuity will show that. When I bought my annuity, it was quoted at 8.13% as a deferred for 2 year, then immediate annuity. So it was 8.13. Nowadays, I'm seeing higher quotes than that. And I've also seen at other years, I've seen lower quotes.
Right.
Okay.
That is why the payout is dependent on the current and projected future rates. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you, William. I'm gonna show an example, two examples, I think. This one is a single immediate payment from Schwab. So at the top of the graph shows you the data, the information I provide them. All right. So it's a SPIA, single premium immediate annuity. It's a joint life. So I'll show you what the joint life means. And then primary person was born in this state. And I did this in August 18 last year, which is on the upper right corner at the date. That's why the income starts, I have it start 1 year later with the, I give him $100,000. And here's a quote. So the first column is the monthly income. And the second column is the minimum payout. And then they give you this options. They tell you what options you actually got. So, so the joint annuitant, which is the spouse, is a female and born 2 months after the male annuitant. Also, this is 1 year defer. Just by looking at this thing, I wouldn't just tell you probably nobody going to choose the first one because the monthly income is the same. The minimum payout is 0. It's a joint life only. And then if you look at the bottom one, which is joint life with cash refund, your break even is about 15 years. I'm sure you're gonna have to read this carefully. I can't, unless you want me to just repeat the reading this information. But they give you this thing about how they derived this. Some of the reasons they derived this. One is they took 6 competitive SPIA and 2 deferred income annuities to come up with this average number, I think. And also this is for two joint. So that you should know. And if you look at the income annuity options, which is the third column on the left graph, so the first 559 per month, that's a joint life only. And the second, same monthly income, but a higher minimum payout. Minimum payout means, well, we'll look at that. But that's a joint life with 10 years certain, right? We talk about period certain. And then the third is the joint life with 20 years certain. And the last one is joint life with cash refund. So what is a minimum payout? The minimum payout is the amount of income that you or your beneficiaries will receive at a minimum, okay? And what is the income annuity options? Here they talk about that basically the death benefit is different and how much benefit is given. So if you look at this, and then it seems to me the third row, which is monthly 545 a month, and I am getting 130K, 130 and 800, $130,800 minimum payout. That beats the other three options. So that's what you can see if you go on to Schwab website, which I have a link up there, and you can do this quote. Now here's an example of Fidelity. You do the same thing, go to Fidelity website, and you give them the same information. And here is what they give you. So if you look at this, it's similar, right? They didn't have the first one, joint life only, but they have the 10-year certain, 20-year certain, and cash refund. What they have extra here is this GLWB that I was surprised to see. You have to read this carefully to find out exactly how this works. But the fact is, if you look at the monthly income and minimum payout, doesn't seem to be that attractive. Just my first glance, without actually reading the fine print. Now, they also tell you how they calculate that. And here's their methodology, and here's their assumptions. I'm not going to go through every single one because everybody can read that, and there's more stuff on the website. So what is interesting with Fidelity here is, oh, by the way, I listed the Schwab numbers, comparable Schwab numbers, and you can see that they are very, very similar, right? A few dollars different each month. Now, Fidelity had this one, and you look at this increase 2% a year that you can choose. So it's not a fixed monthly, it's actually adjusted, but it's not a COLA. It's not based on inflation, it's just a fixed 2%. And if you look at the blue letters, I put it in under the monthly income, that 2% costs you a lot. If you don't, it's usually about $100 or $110 less if you choose the 2% increase a year. However, you got to remember that this is a quote: retirement income calculation should be concluded in real, meaning after inflation terms. So you got to consider this COLA somehow, but this is not a COLA. So those are, so if you're interested, you can go on to Schwab website or Fidelity website. And there are many other online resources that can give you quote. I think there's somebody called Annuity Man at Paul Merriman had a podcast on. And then there's there are other ones. So now, if we talk about annuity, you have to talk about Social Security because
Gilbert, just a second. So you were comparing Fidelity and Schwab side by side. You have equal size annuities at both these institutions. So you're comparing apples to apples, just to clarify, because I think you said it was only
the slides is what I went to our website and I put in the information I show here.
Oh, okay. So you're modeling these out. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
This is the quote I got from them on August 18th, 2024.
Okay.
If you go on and do it today, it'll be different. So let me quickly scan forward.
So it was apples to apples. In other words,
yeah,
same contracts. It's just, and then you're going to see, you're showing us how it's reported differently and how the income might vary from Fidelity and Schwab. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
just
because
clarify that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They may or may not use the same insurance company. So Social Security, pro and con. Pro, well, you got the best backer, and your death benefit for spouse, you have death benefit there, and you have a COLA. That is the biggest thing. Look at the percentage. And if you delay your annuitization, which means when you claim the benefit, you get a 8% increase per year, right? For 4 years. No fees and charges. And payout is taxed partially on federal return by your income, and no state tax. So even your ex-spouse get benefit. Of course, there's pro and cons.
Okay. Okay. So you are presenting Social Security as an alternative to owning an annuity contract here.
No, it's not an alternative. All I'm saying is you should look at a Social Security as an annuity
Oh,
that
yeah,
you own.
but right. Okay.
If you
I get
have
what
it,
you're saying.
if you get
You're
it.
Yeah, if you evaluate in the same sense,
There,
same criteria as an annuity contract, because it is very much annuity-like.
well,
Yeah,
no, Social Security is a better annuity. And
Right.
if you qualify, you own one. So you should put that into your net worth consideration.
Mhm.
Now, the con of this is the system is projected to run out of money in 10 years. So much for that guarantee. And then you cannot surrender, or terminate this contract and get the money, or you cannot take money out of it anyway. The beneficiaries are fixed, right? You can't just add somebody to it.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's a comparison. Taking an example of average $1,782, $1,782 a month. This was I got from internet, and you compare this with Fidelity's quote. I used their 2% annual adjusted quote. The average Social Security is worth $400,000 immediate income annuity. So that's not a small potato. So by comparison, Social Security is the best deferred annuity policy, but you can only earn it, right? You cannot go and buy it.
Mhm.
Yeah, otherwise I'll buy more. So what is the second type? Fixed index annuity. Most of them are deferred, right? Because because all the complexity comes in the deferred phase. They earn interest based on changes in an index during a set of period called index period. Some index are measured on how the overall financial perform, like S&P 500 index. Others are using some unique indexes. And if the change is positive, interest is added to annuity. Otherwise, no interest is paid. So you say that sucks, but then again, you never lose money. So principal is safe, and your principal will never go down. So there are 3 rates you must understand. There's a participation rate, which is the percentage of the index return that count. So maybe I think it goes. I don't think it's ever be negative, but it goes from 0. It doesn't make sense to be 0 either, but it's a positive number. It goes to even higher than 100%. There's a cap rate, which means the maximum interest rate that can be applied. So, and there's a spread rate. So this is a rate that will be subtracted from the calculation. So if this number is high, you get less. Example formula for calculating index return. Okay. This is where it's getting to be a little bit complicated. So there is monthly or daily averaging. There is so-called monthly point-to-point. And then there is so-called annual point-to-point. And there's a so-called multi-year point-to-point. You can read the fine print here, but the best thing to do is look at an example. So here is an actual example. The YouTube program that I got this from is the URL is under the title. So in this table, the leftmost column is the allocation percentage. So this person can choose a combination of these things. So if you look at the 25%, he choose 4 of them. So the reason I draw the line is on top of the line is the most common index you know people see, the Standard & Poor's 500, the Russell 2000. Most people understand that. And you can see that the third column is participation rate. And then the next column is the cap. Then the declare rate, not quite sure what that is. If you look at the part below the line, I've never heard those. So I did a sum check. Okay, so on top it's familiar with this one. Okay, I need to explain this. You look at the first 2 rows, you can see that both are 100% participate. And the cap is different. And when you have a cap of 2.9, you can pay, the second row says you can pay a fee, which is a single asterisk down below, which is 1%. Then you can raise the cap by 2%. Now you look at the second pair, which is the third and fourth row. Now you don't have any cap, but your participation rate goes up, then they'll charge you 2% to do that. So now if you look at the exotic part of this, these indexes are created by a bank in France. And if you look at the this U.S. Innovative Leader 5, you'll see that at least their performance isn't that great, right? And that was done May 2004. And you can see that you can have actually more than 100% participation rate. But with the low growth index, is that better? So I would stick with the familiar index. Here's the example of these numbers. So option A, you have a initial 100K. It's a 10-year contract. You index to S&P 500. The key thing here is 100% participation, 4.5 cap rate, and no spread. And it's interested credit annually. The option B is pretty much the same, except the participation rate is only 60%, and also no cap. Well, no, it has no cap, but it has 2% spread. So the difference here is participation, cap, and spread. Which option would you be choosing? If you look at the top, here is an example of 2010 to 2019, where the blue is the index performance and the yellow or gold is what you get. Now you compare that's option A. Now you compare the same period for option B, you found out that option B is actually better, I think. So, but then again, it depends on the market, right? So if you run into a different market pattern, this may be different. This is a horror story.
Oh.
When you go ahead.
No, I was just reacting. Go ahead.
All right, so from February 2020 to a year later, SP was up to 17% more, and if you do monthly point-to-point scenario, if you look at the table, you can see that you got like 3 negative monthly returns from the index, right? But because you were capped to 1.25, you absorb the negative, but you get little upside. So at the end of the year, even though the index went up 17%, you got 0. Is the moral of the story here. So watch this one, right? So compared to yours, and so the how they credit interest, here's the monthly, which is terrible. And if you look at the next example, it's the next year, right? From 21 to 2022, the index went up 16%, and you got 0, and the same reason. So be careful on choosing these things. Okay, here is a spreadsheet sort of explaining a simple example. Again, I took it. I used it's based on this YouTube thing under the title. So you put in 100K, and your participation rate is 100%. You have a cap of 2.85%, and you have a spread of 0 and no fees. Dream on. If you look at the let me see. So gain and loss, this is compound. So-called SP 500 multiple, that is after starting from 2011 for 10 years, right? After 10 years, the index has grown 3 times, 3.79 times. So that comes to an annualized return of 14+%. But based on our calculation, your contract value at the end of 10 years only increased 25K from 100K. So your annual growth, annual return is only 2.27%. So well, if you look at this and look at the cap, it's lower than your cap.
Is that an argument for just owning like a low-cost index equity fund as an example rather than an annuity contract?
Well, you can. I have no position there. I'm just
Oh yeah,
telling you how
I mean
how these things
not
works.
officially giving advice, but I'm trying to understand the disadvantage versus advantage.
I think I'm just
yeah.
trying to explain how these things works, and everybody can make their own judgment.
Sure.
And I'll give some red flags that I see. Here is a simple example with the income rider. Now, so the left half is similar to the previous page. On the right is this income rider, GLWB, and over there, you can see that it gives you a roll-up rate of 7%, and it charges 1% per year. And so it tracks, like I said, it tracks 2 numbers. So your benefit base, let me see if I have some pointer here. Yeah. So that 7% is your starting with your benefit, it compounds 7%. So after 10 years, almost double, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they give you a different withdrawal rate every year. And so the guaranteed annual withdrawal is just the benefit base times the withdrawal rate. Okay, so the person in this same example, right? So the S&P went up 3 and 10. So his account, based on a Stucky cap, grow to 112,000-ish, but his benefit base grow to 196,000. So since you have this income rider, they're going to use the higher number. And so when he annuitized at age 62, he's getting $9,541 per year. And after 22 years, he exhausted the contract value, but he's still getting paid. So in this case, the the income rider seems like a good deal. You know, versus you didn't buy it. So that's that. Of course, in this case, we have a rider fee here. Okay, so those are the fixed income, fixed indexed annuity. Now we're talking about the most complicated one, which is variable annuity. Because I think I'm running out of time, and this is the most complicated.
Right. I didn't know if you had that hard stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just quickly go through it.
Yeah.
Do
Sure.
we still have people around to listen to this? Okay, we have 30 people. Okay, so what is variable annuity? There is this document you can find on the coming out from agency that you can read. But here's my view of it. This is annuity where you invest your money in a combination of mutual fund. So this is more of this has to be a deferred, and you invest. And each fund that you buy is called a sub account. And you invest in these sub account during the accumulation phase. Yeah, it's deferred. So the problem here is if your investment, if you suck at investment and investing, and your investment goes down, you may end up with less money than you paid. What else is new? You get regular income during payout phase, and that's like when you say, I want to get my money, right? And you look at how much you have. Now, if you don't want to take this market risk, you can buy the income rider, and we'll go through that. And here's a possible death benefit, and fees and charges. So what's new here is the sub-account expense. These are mutual funds. The mutual fund has an expense ratio that's usually higher than ETF, right? So, and if you buy the income rider, there's rider charge. If you have other riders, there are other rider charge. Okay, and here's an example showing impact of these fees and charges on your investment return. Here is, again, I took off from YouTube. And here's the parameters. Here is what you get. So the mutual fund value is always higher than your annuity contract value because of the fee and charges. So the extra 1.2% annual fee, which is how you add up the first two things in the fees, 0.25% versus plus 0.95%, you get this annual 1.2% annual fee. After 10 years, the contract value is 10% less than if there was no charge. So it all adds up. And then the bottom line to me is if you're just looking for invest without the life insurance component or annuity, so variable annuity is a bad decision. However, I have an exception for you. Let's come later. So here's a simple example. If you, this is an example of a bull market. So here's our assumptions. You can look at all these fees and rates, and important things at the bottom is the expense. You have a 1.89% per year in this example charge. And here's how these columns calculated. So if you look at the, well, the first column is year, age, the standard pool performance from 1990 to 2000, that's a bull market. And before expense, after the fee itself, the contract value basically, and then the surrender charge, the surrender value, income per year, blah, blah, blah. So here is the formula. Income per year is contract value times distribution rate. Distribution rate is 5.5%. Net total income is this total income received minus initial investment. And compound annual growth and death benefit. So the bottom line here is when you annuitize, it's a bull market. So your value, your contract value grows in this 10 years, went up 3.6 per times. And so you get you get these and you break even. So your income per year, that 20,000 is calculated by the last contract value times your distribution rate. When you break even, meaning you got back the money that you put in is 15 years. And you exhaust your contract value after 30 years. But because you're on annuity, you continue to get the money. Here's an example that needs the income rider because you were investing in a not so good market. It's from 1999 to 2009. Again, I just list the extra ones, the GMWB base and the income per year, the net total income you get, the compound annual rate growth rate, the death benefit. Oops, sorry. And you can see that the bottom, the moral story is if you look at the contract value, after 11 years, you are having less money than you put in because this 10-year period is terrible in stocks or in standard pool 500. And so, but because of your income rider, you got a base that's $227,000 that you used to get income from. So that's why it's an insurance against bad market or bad investor if you switch fund like crazy and lose money that way. So here are two examples. And so here's
can I interject for just a second? Because I don't know how much time we have. And we had another question in the Q&A. I'm just going to read it. Said, my broker is recommending that I purchase an SPIA. You recommend I read Wade Pfau's book, Safety First, one of our speakers that we had last fall. In part one of our annuity presentation, by the way. And he did get that book, The Questioner, and he says, what additional resources would you recommend to review to better educate myself on annuities, particularly in SPIA, so I can decide if it's a good investment for me? Just off the top of your head, any other resources that come to mind that you recommend people consider reading in addition to the great content you provided today?
I have to say that I did this set of slides for my own benefit because I try to understand annuity and try to see which one I would prefer. So my first response would be these are very subjective, and so I don't have a fixed. I don't have really. I'm not really an expert.
So you don't have any texts or anything or particular books that you recommend?
I think if you are doing SPIA, it should be very simple because by definition, SPIA is a simple, immediate, right?
Right.
So you just give them so all you want to know
type of annuity.
All you want to know is how much you're getting back and what is the death benefit or the minimum payout, like when we did the quote, right? Because the monthly income is what you are interested in, and what happens after you die, that's another thing you want to know if there are beneficiaries. I don't think there's I personally don't think, but I don't know. But I don't think you need to read a lot of books to do that. I think it's nobody knows the future, right? So whatever you do is going to be just a guess.
All right. Well, thank you. I'll let you get back.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, I think I did this. So here's so we talked about the cost was an issue. And here's what I suggested also people is I go through this very fast and it's not doing justice to the information. So you probably want to just get a slide and get it from our website and look through it. And if you have questions, post it in the discussion. And if Pat, you can monitor that for me, I'll be happy to answer with my own opinion.
Right. Yeah. And I know that our webmaster, John Wong, will work on getting that on the website. John, we had an inquiry as to how long that normally takes because we have to go through compliance with national. Can you clarify that?
Usually by the first of next week, Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, so let me
Thank you.
quickly go through this. So low cost deferred annuity. I just said the cost was an issue. So, oops. By the way, I'm not endorsed anybody. The phrase low cost annuity is often an oxymoron.
Mm.
The high fees handicap your investment returns. We just went through that. Now, Fidelity does offer a low fee variable annuity called Fidelity Personal Retirement Annuity, FPRA, and I disclosed that I own this. Pro and con. This is the way I see it. And the reason I want to share is maybe people see that I don't see. I would appreciate that. So no surrender charge or withdrawal limit. And low annual fees, 0.25%. If your contract value is never is below 1 million, and if you have a contract value above 1 million, that's 0.1%. Meaning if you put in $1 million, they charge you $1,000 a year. But if you put $1 less, then they charge you 2.5 times more. However, you saw my example, 1.98 or 1.2, that's 10 times more than this. It's tax deferred, no RMD, because they only do the non-qualified. There are 67 mutual funds to choose from. I wish they have more. There's this stretch option provision that adds some tax benefit for your beneficiary. You have to read that document to find out what exactly it is. But the con is you can only invest in these 67 mutual funds. And there are varying expense ratio for each of these funds. So some are really low cost, some are really high cost.
Are these no load funds, Gilbert?
Yes,
Okay,
they are no
all
low
right.
fund, but they have annual charge, right?
Sure,
So,
yes.
yeah. And then there's a frequent trading restriction. So you can, go in and out more frequent than 30 days. And there's no income rider or a long-term care, any rider at all. This is just, they keep it simple and stupid. So it's a variable annuity, it's designed for accumulation phase. The contract stipulates that at the 90, when you're 90 years old, they'll force you to annuitize. You never take money out, and it's based on the distribution rate in your contract, which is very low. So again, this is not endorsement, this is just share information. And if you want more information, I found some discussion in the Boglehead site. So
so there's another site. Okay.
Yeah, you can look at the
source, yeah.
Bogleheads. The Boglehead, the Bogle people are very frugal, I think,
Yes,
right?
they
So,
are.
yeah. All right, so RILA. Okay, RILA is basically, it's a cross between the fixed index and the variable annuity. And I'm going to go very fast here because you are accepting some risk of market loss in exchange of a higher upside potential than FIA. Like a variable annuity, RILA can only be sold by security licensed financial professionals. So not every insurance salesperson can sell you this. They have to be passing the S7 or whatever the test, like a stockbroker.
Series 7, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's a link to that. It's an index linked, right? So they sometimes call buffered or structured annuity. It's like the buffered or structured ETF. Basically, they protect you on the downside to some degree. They offer a floor or they offer a buffer. A floor is the maximum percentage of loss, and they are typically designed to help you accumulate wealth for retirement or, well, risk balance manner is what they advertise. Crediting strategies, a buffer or a floor. So this is a good picture. What is a buffer? What is a floor? It's complicated. A buffer is on the left-hand side. It's like absorb some the downside. Now a floor is on the right-hand side, is to limit your potential loss to a set percentage. Now there is a cap rate, which is, how they, I guess, make some money to administrate this. And then there's a participation rate as well, like before. Okay, so that's RILA. What is QLAC? This thing is a deferred income annuity created in 2014 to provide longevity insurance. It is used to delay R&D. So here is the rule, some example of rules and provisions. And when to consider QLAC. Well, first you have to expect you live very long and your consumer running out of money. And you have low tolerance of risk. So, but you don't care about leaving a lot of money behind. Okay, so here's the example. Basically, it's showing you the tax benefit of a no RMD. And with QLAC, QLAC has a limit, so you can just do a limited amount. But with QLAC, you reduce your RMD, in this case, by $4,000 a year. Summary. This is my summary, my bottom line. Keep it simple and stupid. So, SPIA is great for getting immediate income, create an income stream. And if you want to build wealth tax deferred, use low cost overhead. Low cost, the key, deferred variable annuity. And these annuities can be complicated. What we have discussed is only the basics. That's why the title is Annuity Basics. Insurance companies are working constantly to make it very complicated. Now, also beware of psychological factors when people are selling you these things. There may be fear, and they may go after your greed. So be careful of that. Then you want to read the prospectus to understand the cost and benefit and what you need. But the real thing is the contract itself. Now, in the case of a guaranteed income stream, you want to go with the best, the biggest company, and you got to read the contract. And if anything you don't like, you can use the free look period to cancel. You can buy another contract from the same guy, just change the term to what do you like.
The
And diversify.
TBTF acronym, that's too big to fail, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and diversify. Yeah, do not put a large percentage of retirement fund in one contract, because if you don't like it, you might be just already stuck. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Appreciate those of you that hung in with us when we exceeded the time limit here, but a lot of good content here and a lot of, again, complicated. I think Gilbert's statements about keeping it simple make a lot of sense, and do a lot of research before you sign on the proverbial line that is dotted, as they say, and because they are a big decision. And it can make a lot of sense. It's really worth your time investing to really think about it. And again, you might get some say, oh, you need to sign now, you need to make a decision. Take your time, do your research. I think we can't give advice, but it's good something to think about. So, and thank you very much, Gilbert, for all of your time in doing both presentations today, the economy and the financial markets and annuity basics. And you can tell the annuity basics are pretty complex. They're complicated instruments. Thank you also again to John Wong, our able webmaster. And we will get this the notes posted and up on the Portland PDX website is where we post everything, since we host these national calls for the Income and Cash Flow SIG group. And then also, I believe that a recording of this presentation will show up on YouTube as well. So thank you very much, and everyone, for participating today. Again, our next Income and Cash Flow SIG group meeting is scheduled for February 20th with outlook for and overview for best options, best alternatives to invest in fixed income for the coming year. So, but thank you again, everyone, for your attention today, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.